Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel guys. So guys, in this video we are going to cover furthermore real exam questions that are asked in GCP A certification exam. So this is part 4. Already we have covered 3 parts in the previous videos and there is a complete series for it. You can check those videos also, and if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done yet. So let's start with our first question for today. You built an application on Google Cloud that uses Cloud Spanner. Your support team needs to monitor the environment but should not have access to table data. You need a streamlined solution to grant the correct permission to your support team, and you want to follow Google's recommended practices. What should you do? So the answer for this question is option A, that is you have to add the support team to the group, support team group to the role monitoring.viewer role. Okay, so you only have to give viewer role because they have clearly mentioned that you need a streamlined solution to grant the correct permissions and you want to follow the Google's recommended practices. Okay, so your support teams wants to monitor only, that is why we are giving the viewer role, and they should not have the access to table data. Okay, so moving on to the next question. You are using deployment manager to create a Google Kubernetes engine cluster. Using the same deployment manager deployment, you want to create a daemon set in the kube system namespace of the cluster. You want a solution that uses the fewest possible services. What should you do? So the correct answer for this question is option A, that is you have to add the cluster APIs as a new type provider in the deployment manager and use the new type to create the daemon set. Moving on to the next question. You are building an application that will run in your data center. The application will use GCP services like AutoML. You created a service account that was appropriate access to AutoML. You need to enable authentication to the APIs from your on-premises environment. What should you do? So the correct answer for this question is option number B, that is use gcloud to create a key file for the service account that has appropriate permission. Let's move on to the next question now. You are using container registry to centrally store your company's container images in a separate project. In another project, you want to create a Google Kubernetes engine cluster. You want to ensure that the Kubernetes can download images from the container registry. What should you do? The answer for this question is option A. In the project where the images are stored, grant the storage object viewer IAM role to the service account used by the Kubernetes nodes. Let's move ahead to the next question. You are setting up a Windows virtual machine on a compute engine and want to make sure you can log to this VM via RDP. What should you do? The correct answer for this question is option B. After the VM has been created, use gcloud compute reset Windows password to retrieve the login credentials for the virtual machine. Let's move on to the next question now. You want to configure an SSH connection to a single compute engine instance for the users in the dev1 group. The instance is the only resource in this particular Google Cloud Platform project that the dev1 users should be able to connect to. What should you do? The answer in this case is option A, that is set the metadata to enable OS login equals true for the instance. Grant dev1 group the compute.os login role. Direct them to use the Cloud Shell to SSH to that instance. Moving on to the next question now. You need to produce a list of the enabled Google Cloud Platform APIs for a GCP project using the gcloud command line in the Cloud Shell. The project name is my project. What should you do? Answer in this case is run the gcloud project list to get the project ID and then run gcloud services list, that is your project ID. Option A is the correct answer. Moving on to the next one. You are building a new version of an application hosted in an App Engine environment. You want to test the new version with 1% of users before you completely switch your application over the newer version. What should you do? The answer in this case is option D, that is deploy a new version of your application in App Engine, then go to the App Engine settings in the GCP console and split the traffic between the current version and the newly deployed versions accordingly. Let's move on to the next question now. You need to provide a cost estimate for a Kubernetes cluster using the GCP pricing calculator for Kubernetes. Your workload requires high IOPs and you will be using disk snapshots. You start by entering the number of nodes, average hours and average days. What should you do next? The correct answer is option A, that is you have to next fill the local SSD and fill in the persistent disk storage and snapshot storage. Next question is, you are using Google Kubernetes engine with auto scaling enabled to host a new application. You want to expose this new application to the public using HTTPS on a public IP address. What should you do? The correct answer in this case is option A. Create Kubernetes service of the type node pod for your application and the Kubernetes ingress to expose this service via cloud balancer. The next question is, you need to enable traffic between multiple groups of compute engine instances that are currently running two different GCP projects. Each group of compute engine instances is running in its own VPC. What should you do? Answer for this question is option B. Verify that both the projects are in the GCP organization, share the VPC from one project, and request that the compute engine instances in the other projects use this shared VPC. Next question is, you want to add a new auditor to Google Cloud Platform project. The auditor should be allowed to read but not modify all project items. How should you configure the auditor's permission? The answer for this question is option C, that is select the built-in IAM project viewer role, add the user's account to this role. Moving on to the next question, you are operating a Google Kubernetes engine cluster for your company where different teams can non-produce workloads. Your machine learning team needs access to NVIDIA Tesla P100 GPUs to train their models. You want to minimize effort and cost. What should you do? The answer for this question is option D, that is you have to add a new GPU enabled node pool to the GKE cluster. Ask your ML team to add the cloud.google.com GKE accelerator NVIDIA Tesla P100 node selector to their ports specification. Next question is, your virtual machines are running in a subnet that has subnet mask of 255.255.255.240. The current subnet has no more free IP addresses and you require an additional 10 IP address for the new VMs. The existing and new VMs should all be able to reach each other without additional routes. What should you do? The answer for this question is option A, that is use gcloud to expand the IP range of the current subnet. Moving on to the next questions, your organization use G Suite for communication and collaboration. All users in your organization have a G Suite account. You want to grant some G Suite users access to your cloud platform project. What should you do? The answer for this question is option B, that is grant them the required IAM roles using their G Suite email address. Moving on to the next question, you have a Google Cloud Platform account with access to both production and development projects. You need to create an automated process to list all the compute instances in development and production products on a daily basis. What should you do? The correct answer for this question is option A, that is create two configurations using gcloud config. Write a script that sets configuration as active individually. For each configuration, use gcloud compute instance list to get a list of compute resources. Moving on to the next question, you have a large 5 TB Avro file stored in cloud storage bucket. Your analysts are proficient only in SQL and need access to the data stored in this file. You want to find a cost-effective way to complete their request as soon as possible. What should you do in this case? The correct answer is option C. Create external tables in BigQuery that point to cloud storage buckets and run a SQL query on these external tables to complete your request. Remember this, BigQuery is based on SQL, that is why we are using this in this case. Option C is the correct answer. Next question is, you need to verify that a Google Cloud Platform Service account was created at a particular time. What should you do? Answer for this is option A, filter the activity log to view the configuration category, filter the resource type to service account. Moving on to the next one, you deployed an LDAP server on compute engine that is reachable via TLS through port 636 using UDP. You want to make sure it is reachable by clients over that port. What should you do? Answer is option C. Add a networking tab of your choice to the instance. Create a firewall rule to allow ingress on UDP port 636 for that network tab. Next question is, you need to set a budget alert for use of compute engineering services on one of these 3 Google Cloud Platform projects that you manage. All 3 projects are linked to a single billing account. What should you do? Answer is option A. Verify that you are the project billing administrator. Select the associate billing account and create budget and alert for the appropriate project. So with this, we have completed all the questions in this video. Most probably there will be one more video and then we will wind up this series, and all the questions that are very important for from the perspective of GCP ACE certification will be covered in all these 5 parts. And if you have any doubts, let me know in the comment section and I will be guiding you through it. Also, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching the video.